Okay, good afternoon, students. So, I hope you have been able to understand things till now and everybody is fine preparing for your examinations. आज का जो सेशन है that I'm planning that we will be focusing and will be discussing more of the programming part. Yesterday's session we had discussed about part 1 and then we had discussed about those things, basically the theoretical aspects we had discussed. We targeting the section B today, part 2, section B. Section A, we had discussed that there will be questions from Boolean algebra, that will be there, K-map, and also that we have section A, we have discussed. Today we'll be talking about section B and section C, right? Part 2, section B and section C, the major parts of the programming that is there. That includes your 30 marks, around 30 marks are there from that section. So, talking about first the programs, in the section B, you get questions where you have to make the complete programs, right? Complete programs you have to make, and in that you have to take care of string, arrays, objects, right? Object creation based programs are also there, and methods. So all these three programs, out of the three you have to attempt, any two programs you have to attempt, and all this, the important thing is that you have to be focused for your program. The methods, all the functions will have, all the programs will have multiple methods. So we have to make the methods, we have to develop the methods, we have to create the objects also, right? So in this category of programs, you get programs with multiple functions, you get a program from string, you get a program from array, and then you get a program where there are multiple objects to be created. So these are the things which you have to take care of, right? Either of these questions might contain recursion, right? Either of these three questions will contain recursion. So recursion program also is easy because you have to attempt using the concept of recursion. You have to use it. Okay. So I'll be focusing, discussing the various programs one by one. I'll be discussing, and then we will be slowly coming up to those parts as well. Okay. I'll be discussing certain theory parts also, right? Okay. So, if you have any specific doubts, if you have any specific things to ask, you can comment. I'll be taking up that also. Okay, right. Okay, so first I'll discuss with you a very important question, that is the object passing that we'll be discussing. So it will make you a concept very much clear for this, how these programs work, right? So I'll be starting with it. You will focus on the screen. I'll be sharing my screen one by one and we're discussing various topics. So this object creation, one question will be there, confirmed, right? This object create passing one question will be always there, and that is confirmed that it has to be there. So try to understand the concept of these programs. Okay. So I'm sharing my screen. Okay, I hope it is visible. Yeah. So now this question is, the coordinates of a point P on a two-dimensional plane can be represented by P x y, with x as the x coordinate and y as the y coordinate. The coordinates of the midpoint of the 2 points P1 x1 y1 and P2 x2 y2 can be calculated as Pxy, where x is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y is y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Design a class point with the following details. Class name is specified as point, right? Class name is specified as point. Data members x and y are there. X stores the x coordinate and y stores the y coordinate. Member functions point is the constructor to initialize x by 0 and y by 0. X is initialized by 0 and y is initialized by 0. Next function is void read point. It accepts the coordinates x and y of a point. Then we have point midpoint, point A comma point B. These are the two objects. A is one object and B is another object. It calculates and returns the midpoints of the 2 points A and B. Void display point displays the coordinates of a point. Now what we have to do, we have to specify the class point giving details of the constructor, member functions, void read point. This is the point midpoint. Now this is the name of the object point, and the two objects are passed as parameter, point comma point and void display point along with the main function to create an object and call the function accordingly to calculate the midpoint between any two given points. Now this will be a 10 marks question. You have to attempt two questions. As I told, they can contain general, they will contain a string, they can contain arrays, and one question will be there which will be using recursion also, so that also we'll discuss. तो देखो यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है ना, we are just creating, or we are calling the java.util package. I define the class point, right? Class point. You have to, in this question, you have to understand and analyze the term properly. Now there were two instant variables x and y, so I took int x comma y. Then we have the constructor, so I used the constructor point x equal to 0 and y equal to 0. I assigned, because it was a default constructor, so I just assigned the value of x as 0 and the y as 0. Then we have took the function void read point. Input करने के लिए question में बोला हुआ था, just the things are given, you have to convert it in the Java's language. Void read point, यहाँ पे हम कर दिए scanner input equal to new scanner system.in. Scanner input equal to new scanner system.in, and then we are asking enter x and y. X or y we got as input. So void read point, this is clear to everybody. This should be clear to everyone. See, when we talk about examination, when we talk about the program-based questions in the boards, so marks are distributed step by step. Even if you have some problem in any of the parts, you should make the structure. जहाँ पे confusion हो रहा है, that function will have a problem. But this basic thing, defining a class, defining a variable, defining a constructor, and storing data into it, all those things are clear to everyone. Then read point. Read point में क्या होगा? We ask it to input. Then we have void display point. I display the value of x and y. X equal to plus x and y value of y equal to plus y. Then we have point midpoint, right? Point midpoint, point A comma point B. Now the function was returning our object. It was accepting two parameters, two objects as parameters. So point, that's the return type. Midpoint, that's the function name. Point A comma point B, these are two objects. Now point D equal to new point. I created an object within the function. Point D, I created an object named D. Point D equal to new point. Now D dot x, right? D dot x for object x, D dot x is equal to A dot x plus B dot x divided by 2. Then D dot y equal to A dot y plus B dot y divided by 2. So this, for this object D, I created x and y, and then I returned the value. Okay. So students, there is a hailstorm going outside. You should not get out in the rain. You can see this. Okay. So D dot x is equal to A dot x plus B dot x divided by 2, and D dot y equal to A dot y plus B dot y divided by 2, and then we return the value of D. Yes. In the main function, I created first an object OB1, point OB1 equal to new point OB2 equal to new point, and then point OB3 equal to. So I created three objects OB1, OB2, and OB3. OB1 the value of the first point, OB2 the value of the second point, and then midpoint. So I created the object OB3 to call the return one. So OB3 is equal to OB3 dot midpoint OB1 comma OB2. OB3 equal to OB3, that's the object to return, OB1 comma OB2. And then OB3 dot display point, I displayed the object at 3. OB3 I displayed, right? So this was this question. Anybody having any doubts in the program, let me know please. If you have certain queries, you can just put it in the comments. I'll just respond to it. Anyone? Those of you who are watching it live, have any doubts, anyone has some queries, you can let me know. Okay, so then I will proceed to the next question. Okay. An angle can be measured in degrees and minutes. An angle can be measured in degrees and minutes. Like 70 degree 35 minutes, angle B is 50 degree 40 minutes. So what happens? 35 plus 40 is 75, right? So it is 60, it will become 70 plus 50 was 120, 1 minute added, so it became 121 degree and 15 minutes. Now we have the angle as the constructor, read angle to read the angle as DD and mm, display angle to display the angle as DD and mm, sum angle, two objects are being passed, difference angle, two are passed. So accordingly we will be calculating read angle, we got the input, this sum angle, degree equal to A dot degree plus B dot degree, minute is equal to A dot minute plus B dot minute. If minute is greater than 60, right? If the minute is greater than 60, then degree equal to degree plus 1 and minute equal to minute minus 60. Difference angle, I got converted to minutes, right? And then I subtracted here. If x is greater than y, then z equal to x minus y, else z equal to y minus x. Then degree equal to z divided by 60 and minutes equal to z divided modulus 60. I got this result. Display angle, angle in degree, angle in minutes. We created the first object, second object, third object. Read angle for first and second. Sum of two angles I called and passed it and then I displayed. Because here the result was not being transferred, so it was a void. So I just transferred it and again I displayed. Again, difference of two angles, I called the difference angle methods and passed the two objects as parameter and then I displayed it. So this is, I hope object passing is clear to everyone. Any queries anybody is having with this? Okay. So this was one thing where we discussed the object passing part, and object passing basically we can get anything, any question related to it that could be asked by the object passing method, and that you will be able to analyze it, right? Yes, so with this I will move ahead with this. I think object creation is clear to everyone. Fine. Nobody should have a doubt with this object creation. Fine. Okay. Next, let us talk about another thing, another topic which we will be discussing now. That I'll be discussing few questions from array. Okay? array, double dimension array, I'll be discussing certain questions so that it is clear to everyone. Okay. For array, the basic things of single dimension array, that is the searching and sorting you should do. And then when we talk about double dimension array, so I'll be just discussing certain points from double dimension array as well. Okay. A simple question, if you see here, let me first give this one. Write a program to input numbers in a 4 by 4 array, display the array, replace all the boundary elements with 0 and print the new array. Right? Replace all the boundary elements with 0 and print the new array. Now, in this, what we are doing when we talk about a matrix, matrix basically contains rows and columns. Right? A matrix contains rows and columns. The first subscript is for the row number, row, and the second one is for the column. When we talk about row, a double dimension array has got two subscripts, as I told. The first one is the row and the second one is the column. Row, if there is an array in which there is a row and a column, the first row, second column, we will define the array. Like if you see in this question when we talk about, okay, we have two variables I and j for the loop. I took int n is equal to new int 4, that is first one is for the row, second one is for the column. I use the loop for I equal to 0, I less than 4, I plus plus, then the loop of j for 0 less than 4. I ask the user to enter a number, the number is taken as input, and at ij equal to input dot next int. Then we display the normal array. For displaying, again we use for I equal to 0, I less than 4, I plus plus, and then j equal to 0, j less than 4, j plus plus, we print nij, that is to be kept in the same line, and then we display system.out.println, which moves to the next line. Now when we talk about checking its values, so for I equal to 0, I less than 4, I plus plus, j equal to 0, j less than 4, j plus plus. Now to check for the boundary, if the row is 0 or the row is 3, if I equals 0 or j equals 0 or I equals 3 or j equals 3, if either the row or the column is 0 or 3, if I is 0 or j is 3, then in that case n at ij equal to 0. I am replacing the boundary elements to 0. N at ij is 0. Then we are printing the changed array. For printing the changed array, we can do like it that I display it again the value for the value goes, and again for I equal to 0, for j equal to 0, and again 0 less than 4, and we are printing n at ij. And then we in the next line we do system.out.println to move to the next line. Now this question, you see, this question says that reprint the array, right? Reprint the double dimension array by increasing the boundary elements by 2 and the non-boundary elements by 3, right? Increasing the boundary elements by 2 and decreasing the non-boundary elements by 3. Now if we talk about this question, in this question what will be done? In this question we will just ask the user to input. The user gives the input here, right? The user is giving the input, and once we get the input, again we check for the loop. Again we check for the value, and again if I is 0 or I is 3 or j is 0 or j is 3, in that case what we are doing? In that case we are increasing, right? If I equals 0 or j equals 0 or I equals 3 or j equals 3, then aij equal to aij plus 2, else n at ij equal to n at ij minus 3. So accordingly we are changing the values for the boundary and the non-boundary elements, and after that again we can print the array. So that could be done. Transpose, symmetric. Accordingly, now you see this question, a practical based, practically a question containing the multiple functions which will be there. Now this question says, yeah. This question says a class array max contains a square matrix which finds the largest element in each row, right? A class array max contains a square matrix which finds the largest element in each row. Some of the members of the class are given below. Class name is array max. Data members array to store the integer elements. M is in order to store the order of the matrix, that is row and column. Array max int mm. It's a parameterized constructor to initialize the data members and to declare the array. Void read array to accept the array elements. Okay. So first one the constructor, second is the void read array to input the elements, right? So that will initialize the size of the array, the constructor. Void large finds and displays the largest element in each row. Largest element in each row with an appropriate matrix, and void display displays the array of elements in matrix form. Okay. So now I just solve this question for you so that you get a proper understanding that how to make these programs. This is the mode question. A class array max contains a square matrix. Okay. So since there will be input, so I am calling the package. So import java.util.asterisk. I call the package. Now the class name is array max. Always remember the class name and function name, if they are given in the class, you have to use the same. So class array max, right? Class is array max. Then, okay, instance variables int array. Okay. Then we have int m, right? Now member methods, array max, parameter is here int mm. Here m equal to mm. The constructor's work is done, right? The constructor's work is done. Now next is void read array. Void read array. Right. Okay, I call this scanner. Scanner input equal to new scanner system dot. Okay. We call the scanner. Now I ask the user. I'll use variables int I and j. Now for I'll define declare the array. Array is equal to new int m. For I equal to 0, I less than m, I plus plus, right? For j equal to 0, j less than m, j plus plus. System dot out dot println. You will not write SOPL. Enter the number. We'll ask the user to enter the number. It is what array, no? AR is equal at IJ equal to input dot next int. So this was the input method done, right? I equal to 0, j equal to 0, right? And the method we close, right? We close the method. So this was read array. Then we have void large. Void large is there to find the biggest of each. So void large. Okay. Now here I take int max. I declared a variable named max, which will be finding out the biggest element. Now, for I equal to 0, I equal to 0, I less than m, I plus plus, again for j equal to 0, j less than m, j plus plus. Okay, j equal to 0, j less than m, j plus plus. Now, here what I'll do, I'll take max as 0. Every time a new value of I comes, max is made 0. For j equal to 0, j less than m, j plus plus, if m at ij is greater than max, right? If m at ij is greater than max, then max is equal to m at ij, right? I found the biggest. Now, this loop of j, after this, system dot out dot println biggest is equal to plus max. This is void large to find the biggest element, right? Now I close it. Again, void, next function is void display. Void display. Okay. Here again I use the loop for I equal to 0, I less than m, I plus plus. For j equal to 0, j less than m, j plus plus. System dot out dot print m ij plus I use the space. I close it. Now we will make the main function public static void main string. Okay. I create the object of the class array max ob equal to new array max. Then constructor has to be given, so I'll give. For example, I took here 5. Then ob dot read array. Then ob dot large. Then ob dot display. And then you close it. Right? So I hope this is clear to everyone. Any queries you can comment in the chat. I hope the Acha, I'll do one thing, I'll stop sharing so that you can see it properly. I hope you are able to see it properly now. Now the solution, those of you who need, you can take a screenshot of the and try to analyze the program. I'll just give you 2 minutes, just go through the program. Just take a review of the program and have a visual, have a dry run so that you can understand the program well. So I hope you can see these hells from outside, right? Yes, they are. Okay, so in Ranchi you are getting the feel of. Okay, so with this heavy rains, now let's continue further, and we will. Any doubts in array? Anyone is having? Let me know. Those of you who are watching it live, if you have any queries, you can just let me know. Any confusions? Okay. Okay. So fine. So anything to be discussed more in array, you let me know. Then otherwise I'll proceed further. Okay. So now I'll take up another question. Now I'll be taking up recursion. Now what is the recursion? Recursion basically means, or recursion is a concept in which a function calls itself. एक ऐसा function जो खुद को call करता है, that is known as a recursive function. A function is said to be a recursive function if it calls itself, right? Every recursion function has base case and general that is known as a recursive case. Right? So a recursive function is such a function which calls itself, and such a function in which it is there the number of times it is known that how many it will come, then that is a finite recursion, and such a recursive function which does not end, that is known as a infinite, right? That is known as a infinite recursion. So I hope this is clear to everyone what is a finite recursion and what is a infinite recursion. Okay, so the recursive functions again, they will be like just like what we discussed right now. There will be again value containing the same things, but the difference is that there will be one function. All the things will remain the same, but there will be one function which will be using the concept of recursion, right? There will be one function. So it can be from anything. It can be from numbers. It can be from factorial. Any of the things could be there, and that part will be containing the concept of using the concept of recursion, right? So that is there. I'll just share with you. I'll share my screen so that you understand the concept of recursion also. Okay. Okay. Now, for example, this is the function which has to find the sum of first 5 natural numbers. Find the sum of first 5 natural numbers. So here I have int add. Now it has to return. So int add. Okay, good. Int add int n. Right? Int add int n. Now the value of n will be parameterized. If I is greater than 5, right? If I is greater than 5, then return 0, because the value is here first 5. So if I is greater than 5, return 0. Else return I plus add I plus 1. So if it was 5 plus 4, 5, again the number comes plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, and then is the value will go. So what will happen that we need to call the function, right? We need to call the function, and then we will be getting the values when the function is called. So that is what when we talk about a recursive function. For example, I have to find the factorial of a number, right? The function is there to find the factorial of a number. It has a return type, so the return type is int. Int fact, int n, right? Int fact, int n. Now if n equals 0 or n equals 1, right? If n is 0 or n is 1, then it will return how much? 1. Factorial of 0 is 1, factorial of 1 is 1. If n is 0 or n is 1, then it is returning 1. Else return n into fact of n minus 1, right? N into fact of n minus 1. So that will help to get the values, right? That will help to get the values from there. I hope this is clear to everyone, that how can we get the values in the return. So what we need to do, then we will be calling those variables, we will be calling those values, and then those values will be parameterized and then it will return. So when we call the function, that time we will use the return type to get the value, right? That time we will use the return type to get the values there, and once the values is there, a variable will be used to store the value, and that variable will be storing the result, and then we will be displaying that function if needed. Okay. Now let's see. We have to find the power of a raised to the power b, a to the power b. So what I did, I took a function int, a return type int power int a comma int b, right? Int power int a comma int b. So what this will do? This will be returning the values. If b is 0, then return 1, because anything to the power 0 is 1. Else return a into power a comma b minus 1. So that value. So what happens actually, that whenever we are using the functions, recursive function, we will not use a loop. To perform the task of the loop, the recursive function is used. So the recursion basically reduces the number of iterations, right? This one you see, print the series 1, 4, 9, 16, 25. They are the squares. So print int l. If I is greater than 10, right? If I is greater than 10, it will return. Else I into I plus space. So it was 1, I into I, 1 is printed. Again, print I plus 1. The function is called, it will print 2 into 2. Right? So that way it goes. If sum has to be found, which the first one was find printing the series. This one is to find the sum. If I is greater than 10, then return 0. Else return I into I plus add of I plus 1. So the next number is coming, and then finally it will return the last value. For example, again, if you have to find a function is there, and one of the functions was there, using recursive function, find the sum of the digits of the number. I did int sum, int n. If n is 0, then return 0. Else return n into 10 plus sum of digit n divided by 10. Return n modulus 10. That will be the digit plus some digit n, means n equal to n divided by 10. That is called. So accordingly the functions can be used. Like reverse of a string is there. Now in this case what we are doing, if l is greater than 0, right? String s and int l. If l is greater than 0, then return else system.out.print s.caret I, and then reverse string of the number. So it will be calling, and each function will be added continuously, and it will be returned. Number of vowels present in the string, right? Number of vowels present in the string. Now you see, int count string s comma int I. If I is greater than or equal to s dot length, then return 0. Else char we get ch equal to s dot caret I. If ch is a or e or I or o or u, return 1 plus count of si plus 1. So it will count. Else return 0 plus count. If it is a vowel, then it will be adding 1. If it is not a vowel, then it will be adding 0. Again, you see, if you have to add elements of an array, int add, int I. If I dot length, return 0, else return ar at I plus add ari plus 1. It will add the element. Now this one you see, to implement binary search all of you know. Now if you are asked binary search by recursive method, binary search, this is the array, the lower base, the upper base, and then x. If I is greater than 0, then return 0. Else we find the mid value, mid equal to l plus b divided by 2. If array at mid is greater than x, then what we are doing? Ar, lower base, mid minus 1, and x. The upper base changes. Else ar, the lower base, mid plus 1, upper base, and x. Else returns 1. So accordingly, if you get a question in which you have to use recursion, you can perform any of the tasks, any of the methods, and then you can call a function. Like again, you see your question, class name is binary, integer array of 100 elements, n is the size of the array, l is the lower bound, u is the upper bound. Member functions, binary int n, void fill data to fill the array, void sort, void binary search. So you can get any of the questions, and accordingly you will be performing the specific task which is there. So you can get these type of questions from inheritance, from recursion. That is the recursion, the concept of recursion, where you can get any elements, and accordingly to that you will be able to find out which element, which recursive. So either of the methods will be a recursive method, right? Either of the methods will be a recursive method. I'll just do one thing. Sharing with you. Okay. Now, as I told, section B. Given there are two strings, input string and a mask string, that remove all the characters of the mask string from the original string. Like communication, here the mask is MO and T, right? So all those letters, they are being removed, and we get a class string OPs. Class name is string OP. Data member is str, MSK, and NSTR. Methods, this is the constructor to initialize the data member with legal initial value. Void accept accepts. Void form to form the new array by after removal of the characters present in mask, and void display. A simple question of string using the concept of constructor. You can do it. Second one, a class mix array contains an array of integer elements along with its capacity more than or equal to 3 using the following description. Array 1, array 2, and this is what it is doing: 78, 90, 100, 50, 167, 200, and 200. Okay. Details: array 1 to initialize the capacity, and again to accept the elements returns the resultant array having the first three elements of array of P and Q. First three elements of this and first three elements of this. So very easily you can combine the new array, right? It will be like that. Okay, this is a new array which is the containing object from first array 3 and second array 3. That way you can get the value. So this is there. And the third array which has used the recursive concept. LCM, concept of recursion we have used. So either of the three programs, from these three you have to attempt any two questions, right? So that is about this concept of recursion. So I think section B must be clear to everyone. There is no doubt in section B. Anyone? Section B, anybody is having any doubt? Let me know. No one? Okay. Now I'll take you to yet another section which will be important for us. That is section C. Section C, you get one question from data structure which can be either stack or queue, right? More chances of stack, and then the queue is there, right? And then there is one question from inheritance. Inheritance, what happens that in inheritance there are two things. One is the superclass and the other is the subclass. The superclass contains the main class, and the subclass is the class which calls the superclass and creates the things which are advanced after that, right? The superclass is there, the superclass, the concepts are there, and the subclass calls the superclass, and then in the main function we call the subclass. I'll show you a few programs of inheritance so that again you get revised with the recursion part also. And always remember that I think I have told in the class also that in case of recursion, in case of inheritance, you do not need to make the superclass and the main function. Only the subclass is needed, right? Only the subclass you need to define. But the superclass, the question itself tells that assume that the superclass is made, right? Assume that the superclass is made. So you do not need to define the superclass, only you will use the subclass. Okay? Okay. Let me open the inheritance. Okay. I'll explain now the concept of inheritance. Okay. Now, just see here. The question says a class student defines student related information such as name, roll number, date of birth, while another class defines marks in various subjects, total percentage, grade and of the student. और सुपर क्लास दिया हुआ है. सुपर क्लास के बाद there is the subclass. Subclass में class name is marks, data members are given, variables are there, void read data, void compute data and void show data. Specify the class student with its functions, and using the concept of inheritance, specify the class mark with its function. Class mark is derived from the class student. Now we take the class as student, string name DOB, void input data and void print data. This is the super class. This you have to assume कि ये बना हुआ है. This you do not need to make. You will be starting from here. Class marks import java.util Java package को call करेंगे. Class marks extends student. So my cup of tea begins from the subclass. Class marks extends student. I took the variable char. Void read data to input the part, void compute, I compute the values. So whatever things were given earlier that we do not need to discuss here. Void compute we calculated, void show data. Show data में the print data function was already defined in the super class. आधा print जो था वो super class में था, आधा यहाँ पे वहाँ पे नाम था print data. So I call the print data. When you are calling the function within the function, then that time you will not create the object. You will not mention ob dot. So while show data के अंदर I just call print data. I'm printing all the values. This main function we do not need to call. So this much will be needed. Now you see another question here. A class meter. इसका सब क्लास से क्या है? Electricity bill. यहाँ पे reading करना है, calculate करना है electricity bill का part. ठीक है? Now. So whichever programs we just need to call. अब यहाँ पे डिटेल था, क्लास सुपर क्लास था, ये हमको नहीं करना है. Class bill extends detail. अब यहाँ पे क्या है? Actually you see in this one the super class was also having constructor. ठीक है, super class में constructor था, सब class में constructor है, तो यहाँ पे सब super class का जो variables है. अब यहाँ पे जो super class का जो values था, super class में you had n1 a1 t1 r1. I'll use again n1 e1 t1 r1 और यहाँ पे c हमने लिए super n1 a1 t1 r1. This will come from the super class and n equal to c. This n equal to c and ant is 0.0. So remember, when you are calling the super class, right? When you are calling the super class constructor, you will just mention super and the parameters needed. Void show में again there was a function named show in the super class and also in the subclass. So what I did here void show और यहाँ पे हम क्या कर दिए super dot show. Super dot show क्या कर रहा है? Super dot show is calling the show method which was there in the super class. क्योंकि there is the show function also in the super class as well as in the subclass. So we have not defined the super class. We are making a subclass, and in the subclass I will tell that call the function the same it was there. So I just use super dot show. And then I printed the value for the subclass. So I hope this is clear to everyone. Main function we do not need to do. So accordingly this question, again here you see class record display, here class rank extends record. The rank, the constructor, I called the superclass. Here there was not a parameterized constructor, it was a default constructor, so I just kept like this. And then I did index equal to 0, which was its value. Highest, I call it void display. Now the display function was also in the superclass, so it is super.display. So accordingly it will be calling. So you can get any number of anything or any program in which you have a recursive concept, the concept of recursion. And if there is recursion, then in that case what you can do, that you will just make the subclass. You will not make the superclass. You will not make the main function. I hope this is clear to everyone. Yes. So the concept of inheritance also is clear. So this should. Anyone having any query, kindly respond in the chat so that I can take up if you have the doubts. Anyone? 1 second, I think there is something. Okay. So any query? Any doubts? You should not be such a passive listener. You should respond to if you have certain thing or in certain queries you have. So that should be responded. Yes. So because again the recursion, as I told, it will be a 5 marks question only. So you do not need to pay much stress in the part. You can just type in your work. Okay. So this one is done. Okay. Very good. Okay. Next thing we talk about here is the concept of data structure. Data structure, what you need to understand, basically when we talk about a data structure, there are 2-3 things: stack, queue, that program part that you need to go through. And again, when we talk, then again the infix, prefix, postfix, and then the in order, pre-order, post-order of tree, that I'll be discussing tomorrow. Right. So I hope this programming section everybody must be clear with it. I'll be taking up the data structure part tomorrow. Fine, everybody okay with it? Tomorrow we'll be discussing the data structure part, and again with that also the revision part of the other sections also. The address calculation, data structure, these all things I'll be taking up tomorrow. Okay, all of you also must be tired. Go through the videos, revise all the topics and things, and again tomorrow's time will be 11 a.m. Right, I would like to see everyone tomorrow at 11 a.m. That will be the final revision, and the data structure part we will be discussing. So that will be clarifying all and covering up the session so that you are ready for the examination which is there day after tomorrow. Fine. So nobody should have a query now with the concept of recursion, array, string, object creation. These 4 major topics we discussed today, that will cover up your 20 marks, part 2, section B. Right. So I end the session now. See you all again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Sorry, 11 a.m. Okay, I'll be sharing the link again tomorrow. Good night. Thank you, and see you all. All the best for the examination. Practice and do some written practice also. Right, all of you must do some written practice. See you all again tomorrow. Okay, bye bye. Thank you.